right? So now the halfway we are done, right? We have this override method. Right. Overriding, right? I'm just going to now, I will like move into my slide, my presentation. Overriding, overriding gives a class an easy way to intercept a message before it gets to its superclass. When an object receives a message, it checks its own method first before consulting its superclass. This means that if the object class and its superclass both contain a method for a message, the object methods take place. That simply means inheriting the whatever the methods from the you are just inheriting the method. You are just inheriting the methods from the superclass to the subclass, right? So that means you have to denote it with the override annotation. You call it method overriding. In overriding, whatever the thing is, you need to basically override the methods in the superclass, and you can have your own implementation inside the the subclass overridden method. That's the thing. So that means during the runtime, you are maybe you can also create object from the superclass and subclass, right? But during the runtime, the compiler of the Java, the compiler of the Java program, it will decide which override methods to call, whether it is from the superclass or subclass during the runtime based on the assigned object reference. I will explain that in detail in a later moment when I'm telling the polymorphism, right? So that is called overriding, right? So up to this point, do you guys have any questions? So now I just inherited the whatever the attributes of the methods in the superclass, and I can have my own implementation. So that is called the specialization, right? I'm gonna say public void make noise. So here I'm talking uh dog name, and also sorry, this should be in the within the quotation marks. And also I'm gonna delete this super repeat method, and I'm here saying in the override method it's out. So I just override the one method. A method එක ඇතුළේ මම name එක print කරලා I'm just say eating, and I have my old method, old specialized version of my method, public void make noise. එතන මම dog barks කියලා දුන්නා, right? Right? I will explain this in detail once I finish this exam. So finish this practical. Right. Now it's about creating the object. So I'm going to go to the main class. I'm saying public static. Right. I'll be declaring the main method. Right. Inside my main method, what I have done, I just created the main method. A main method I just created a row object. Subclass the object and I just pass the message, right? Someday, because in a constructor, I'm initializing the name variable in the superclass, right? And I just invoke the new key method and new make noise method. New object reference. I mean, like my Java object reference. So you can see the past name is Ryan, and you can see Ryan is eating the Ryan is walking like that. That means without invoking the superclass, I just put whatever the necessary methods. I just invoke the subclass methods and the variable and just execute the program. Right? Fine. Very part of the method. So, I will explain this one more time. I just created a package. Package is there to create like a logically prove the Java classes. Let's say I'm making some kind of queue management system, right? So I have all the classes related to there. If it is a student management system, let's say you have several classes related to managing the student. So you can have one package. Maybe like if it is lectures, you can have one package. Likewise, you can logically group. And inside this package, I created three classes: animal, dog, and the name. I have created animal in order to represent the superclass. I have created dog class in order to represent the subclass. And apart from that, I can have many, like dog, cat, likewise that. So much of Java classes like that. And I have one method. Like for main Java, inside the main method, I have the main method. Again, using that particular Java application, I'm just invoking the main method. The main method program execute right? Inside my animal.java file. So you know that when it's come to animal is the superclass. So when it comes to subclasses like birds, dog, cats, like rats, likewise that fish, so much of things are there. So public class animal. Public is the access modifier. Last week I have already taught you about that. Make a record here once. Right? Right. And inside the animal class, I'm just having a one single variable name here. That I did have that particular variable. And I have a constructor. Last week I told you when you are initializing an object, you can initialize the whatever the instant variable using this constructor, right? So I'm using the same method. This dot name. මේ class එක ඇතුලේ කියන name variable එකට මම value එකක් assign කරනවා object එක create කරන ගමන්ම through the constructor, right? This dot name equal to name. Maybe like from you might be passing some kind of name and it will be assigned to the name. And in the animal class, I have a method called yield. right? A method එකක් තියෙනවා. It just simply saying නම initialize කරාට පස්සේ පෙන්නන්න name is eating කියලා. Right? Whatever the name you are passing, maybe like someone number, any name that we are passing, he is eating, right? So now it's about the dog class. Superclass is done. Superclass, it is a more generalized version, right? ඒක හරිම general දෙයක්. Then in the dog class, you can see public class dog extends animal. ඇත්තම කිව්වොත් එතන තිබ්බ class එක විතරයි. I have told you we need to have this unit in order to represent the unit. We need to use the keyword called extends. Extends to the animal. Once you extend that, we can inherit the properties from the animal superclass, including the variables and the methods, right? මම එහෙම කරපු ගමන්ම දැන් උතර class එක dog කියන එක විතරයි තිබ්බේ. I use this extends animal. ඔයගලන්ට පේන්නේ නැති එතන error එකක් ආවා, right? පතු පාටින් යන highlight කරලා error එක කීතරස් නෝන් පෙන්නුවේ construct එක superclass එකේ call කරන්න ඒක generate කරන්න කියලා. Yes, it is automatically generated. Public dog ඒක තමයි construct එක. But they are inside that particular constructor. I'm referring to the superclass name because construction හදනකොට assume whether I will have any kind of name in dog class, right? කිසිම name එකක් නැහැ. It doesn't have any kind of instant variable. But what happened is when you are creating the once the construct is automatically generated in the dog subclass, I'm referring to super.name. Super කියලා කතා කරන්නේ I'm invoking I'm calling to the superclass constructor. That means when you are creating the dog class object, you can pass the value like this, you can pass any name. So that will be initialized from the superclass constructor. Even though the dog class doesn't have any kind of instant variable called name. Right? So that's the thing. Name කියලා නමක්වත් නැහැ, but inside this main Java file, මම මෙතන object create කරනකොට I just pass the value. That was possible because that automatically can ID එකකින්ද ඒ ඔක්කොම possible. ID එකේ තියෙන like code generation පහසුකම් ඉතින් otherwise like we have tried that manually. So you can see it is automatically initialized. නම එතකොට assign වෙනවා, right? New that's the thing. Then I have like showcase you all the guys insert keyboard එකේ A keys එක click කරාම you can generate some codes, right? So they do have provide the facility to override methods. I just override the eat methods in the super animal superclass. So over is the concept of inheriting the whatever the methods from the superclass, but in the subclass it can have its own implementation, right? And when you generate the code, you can see at override annotation and public void it. And here I'm gonna say I have my own specific implementation system.out.println name is eating, and I can be more specific it in the dog food, right? That's how. And apart from here, apart from that, I have another method called public void make noise. Normal dog barks, right? So that means compare the animal and this particular dog bark. Animal, it's like some kind of blueprint, like some kind of template, right? It is more abstract. It's like a kind of like a abstract version of a particular thing, right? But when it's come to the subclass, it can basically, it has already inherited the properties of the superclass and it has its own implementation. Implementation method apart from that. So you can have more methods, right? So that's it about the subclass. Any questions up to that point? Right. So in the main.java file, I'm just creating a new Java object, right? Dog, object name is new dog. New dog, I'm just passing the value, right? Any, I mean, like it could be any name. And here I'm referring to after that I created the object. So you guys can see at the moment when I type, I mean like when the compiler or the Java program actually hit that particular new dog statement, that means like my object is initialized, and inside the object you are passing the exact message called some name. That means it will be called to the constructor. A constructor calculated string value pass and that will be assigned to the that particular main variable, right? So after that, through the object, you are invoking the eat and the make noise method, right? So I'm just so you guys can see Ryan is eating the dog food and Ryan barks. So this Ryan is eating the dog food. This is not the method that was included in the super class. And this bars it's just the whatever the separate method that I have declared, right? So that's how the basically the inheritance works. Remember, because of that in extends keywords, that's the thing, right? Any questions? That's how we're gonna like in our program. Any questions? Right. Have you understood that? So that's how basically inheritance works. Right. Right. Polymorphism, right? So remember when it's come to inheritance and polymorphism and other Java programming structures that I will share with you. I mean like maybe like even the exam, I mean like inheritance data, I mean like you can explain using the some example. You can explain the Torah, we don't need to then right? But remember, I mean like it's with the one common thing. Some are a lot of example and negative data use guys can ask ChatGPT. Give a simple I mean like answer, right? So at that moment, try to I mean like just understand the concept. Concept will I at least I can give the mark, right? So without any confusion. So now the inheritance is done. So the polymorphism, right? Enabled by the dynamic binding and the inheritance permits one message to be sent to several kinds of objects. Allows interchange of objects that share a common public interface. In other words, you can send the object a message without worrying about its class and be confident that we'll just do the right thing. So, in really simple terms, what happened in really simple terms, what happened is a superclass then define a common interface, subclass inherit the common interface and specialize the corresponding method. Subclass object can be used where superclass object has been specified. That means, right, you guys can see my screen, right? Right. So I'm gonna comment this code, and instead of that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an object from the superclass. Mm, right. So yeah, here what happened is I have commented the previous code, right? And I just created an object of the, I just created an object reference for the superclass animal, right? So without referring to this dog class, I just created an object reference for the animal class, but I am assigning the new dog object, right? So you can see, make it a super classic animal can super classic. And yet I'm invoking the eat method, right? So once I run that, so you can see that particular hand is eating the dog food. It is still like working. But please remember, so I have commented something. Mamme comment katarla. I'm just invoking the new dog dot kadde method එක make noise, right? So that is giving me an error. And I go to here, you can see something like that. Cast qualifier to you need to do the casting or create a method make noise in the animal and like that. Can someone tell me, I mean, like, why it is happening? I never went there. Yeah. So, yeah, I just created a object when you are creating the object, right? Man kiwa object when the program when you are executing the like all the chunks of code එක මෙහෙම execute කරගෙන යනකොට new doc කියලා new keyword එකෙන් පස්සේ තමයි object එක හැදෙන්නේ කියලා. That's why at that moment you can pass a message some string variable to the constructor, right? But what happened is, I created the object reference for the superclass. Object reference का animal. But the object name එක කතර animal new dog මොකක්ද හරි නමක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. But here the animal superclass is there. You are assigning the subclass object, right? Why it is possible? Because superclass actually subclass is an example of a superclass, right? I mean. Uh, let's say I mean that you are having some kind of baby, right? ඒ නම ඔයාගේ මිසක් වෙන කාගවත් එක දැන් ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ so like that's the normal scenario, right? The same thing. I mean that ඒ තාත්තගෙන් තාගේ relationship එක වගේ that's a class subclass, right? So that's why with this superclass like object reference you can assign subclass object. So මෙතෙන්දී ඇත්තටම වෙන්නේ because this is possible through the polymorphism, right? So now I have the superclass, I mean like superclass new dog, I mean like new dog given. That means like that a type of object created, which I mean like type of new dog type of object is created. But the thing is, when I call this make noise method, it is giving me an error. Because why? Because this superclass doesn't contain the make noise method. It goes in the subclass, right? That's the thing. It's the exact same scenario, right? I mean, like that's the normal. I mean, that's the scenario, right? So you have a superclass, and when you create an object using superclass object reference, superclass reference, you can only invoke the override, whatever the overridden methods, not the specific method that you have defined in the subclass. That is why it is giving me an error, right? So let's say I'm having another class called cat. Cat class එකකුත් තියෙනවා. So in the inheritance, in the inheritance package, I'm creating a Java class. I'm going to name it as cat. Right? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. And I'm saying extends, කියන්නේ inheritance and animal. Right? So that is giving me error. Create a constructor matching the super. Yes, now the error is resolved. I click කරව ගමන් constructor automatically generate කරන error is resolved. Right? So alt insert override methods, and I'm saying eat method එක override කරන්න කියලා, right? So here I'm saying it's out name cat is eating fish, right? I have some specific implementation. Cat කරන්නේ dog කරන්නේ dog food කරන එක rabbit food කරන්නේ මාළු කරන එක, right? Yeah, that's the thing. So I have the constructor, it's generated, and I have the override eat method. Yes. Any question? Oh, sorry, it's Right. So inside the main class, so what I'm going to do is I'm creating another superclass object reference. So I'm going to say new cat. I'm just passing the name who's again Amak. Maybe Jack. Right? Right. So I just created another class. Right? I just created another class. So I have the superclass object reference here, but on the right side, I'm assigning the dog type, subclass type objects, new cat, right? So here, actually, there are two objects that I have created using the superclass, right? So, but I am calling to the same method. But I am calling to the same overriding method. But you can see how the value is printed. Each method දෙක තමයි දෙකෙන්ම call කරන්නේ. Ryan is eating the dog food, that means dog is eating the dog food, and the Jack is, I mean Jack is the cat, is eating the some fish, right? So it was possible because during the application, I mean the Java program runtime, the program decided which methods to, I mean like which method to remember, which method to invoke based on the assigned object reference. May new dog කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම it's a object created using animal superclass. But during the runtime, program එක decide කරනවා which method to which each method to invoke. මොන method එකකට call කරන්න කියලා. So new dog කියන්නේ එයාට program which will initially decide the type. මොකක්ද type එක කියලා. New dog කියන්නේ මොන type එකේ object එකක්ද? So it will check the animal class එක උනාට assign කරලා තියෙන්නේ dog type. And in the second time, it will check what is the object type. It is a cat type. So during the runtime, having many forms, having many forms during the execution time. Again, you can have with the same method, you can have objects with the same method, but during the runtime, the program will decide which method to call, and it's called the polymorphism. It's called the during the runtime, we decide which method to invoke, right? That's called the polymorphism. You can polymorphism කියන්නේ මොකක් කරේ බහු අවයවීකරණය වුණා වගේ මොකක් කරේ කියන්නේ මොකක් කරේ මල්ටිපල් දේවල් වලට ඔයගේ දේක් කෝල් කරන එක තමයි අපේ සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ. So run time එකේදී method ගොඩක් තිබ්බොත් ඒ method එකට call කරන්නේ මොන type එකෙන්ද කියලා, so the program it decides, and that actually do decide by this polymorphism, right? That's the thing. Have you understood the polymorphism? We can have polymorphism, of course, without inherit, right? That's the thing. Any questions? Yes. And yeah, it's for the runtime polymorphism. And then something you want to compile that polymorphism, right? Compile that polymorphism. You can application එක run කරන කලින් program it will check. So that is called the overloading. Overloading කියන්නේ වෙනම දෙකක්. The method name. It's like You can have the same name but different parameters. Same method name with different parameters. That's called the overloading. Yeah, because overloading it don't help you with the UML only. So I'm gonna not teach about that thing. So remember, but even I asked on the first day price about the overloading. So method overloading in the sense you are having the same method. I mean like a same method, but different types of parameters, right? So it's something else, it's called overloading and runtime polymorphism. It's, I mean, like you call it compile time polymorphism. Here, this is the actual runtime polymorphism that you need to know when you are making the object-oriented system modeling, right? So yes, any questions up to this point? So what happened is superclass then defined a common interface. Animal, මොකක් හරි object name එක. So you can assign a new dog. Or it can be a new tag. එතකොට animal එක හරියටම it provides a common interface. Right? ඔයාට ඕන තරම් I mean like, obviously I mean like you can create many types of I mean dog type objects. But actually that superclass can define a common interface. ඒක හරියට interface එකක් වගේ. Then subclass inherit the command interface and specialize the corresponding method. Only the overridden methods can be invoked. I cannot invoke so guys can see I cannot invoke the method like new dog that make noise. It will be giving me error because that whatever the animal class it doesn't contain the whatever the implementation for the eat method, right? එහෙමනම් මට dog type of object එකක් හදන්න ඕන instead of having this animal object repairer superclass object repairer, right? So like this is giving me a, of course error. Otherwise I need to create a new object. See. Something like, yeah, that is just to Amila give you the demonstration. So that won't give me any issue, right? So that's how. Subclass object can be used where a superclass object has been specified. That's what I have just done. Right. So, yes. If you don't have any questions, I can explain that. This abstract classes in Java, and after that, the interfaces. Anything that you need to know for this? Abstract classes in Java is a class that cannot be instantiated on its own and meant to be subclassed by other classes. Can we have abstract methods without a body, as well as concrete methods with the body? Abstract classes are used to provide a common base for other classes to inherit from, often defining common behaviors while leaving some methods to be implemented by subclasses. Right. So that's too much things to remember. So I'm going to directly explain that with example. Right. So this is done, right? Okay. Right. Right. So because of the time, I'm going to open a recent project that I have done, ICT test 2, I guess. Oh my goodness. Right. I cannot run the previous project, so I'm going to create a new package to demonstrate the abstract methods, abstract classes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another package, right? I'm just logically group the things, right? New package, I'm going to say it as abstraction. So same as previous example, I have the animal class. I have another class name as dog. And I have another class name as main. So inside the animal class, same as previous example, I am sorry. String name. And I'm saying I need to have the auto insert constructor. And again, here I'm having so what happened was same as previous example. I just created a package. Inside this package, I created three Java class files, right? Animal, dog, and then after that we have the main. So animal it represents the superclass, and the dog it represents the subclass, and the main it is our main method like on. Right. So එතකොට මම කරේ public class element එක තිබ්බා. So what happened is instead of public මම මේක I just deleted that part and I just saved it as abstract. එතකොට class එක become a abstract class, right? Abstract is a keyword, right? Same as previous example, I have one single name, I mean like the instant variable mode name, and I have the constructor which is automatically generated. And here the main thing. Yeah, I have two methods starting from the abstract keyword, right? Abstract, void, key. And without having the bracket, I mean, like, without having any logic inside the bracket, I mean, like, I have two parentheses, then the semicolon. Abstract, void, make note. There's no implementation. Start with the abstract keyword, and maybe it does have some kind of return type or anything. Make it void. I mean, like, it won't return anything. So starting with the abstract, void is semicolon. That is called as abstract method, right? So apart from abstract method, I can also have some other methods like public void. බල්ල මොකද කරන්නේ? තව maybe let's say I'm gonna say as walk, right? So I have some method and I'm gonna say south name, right? And I have two abstract methods and I have some I mean, like, another method called public void walk again. I have the name. I'm going to repeat the name there. Walks on the path. That method is called a concrete method. Method implementation method, right? I do have the method implementation. If it is a no carbon this kind of method, I'm calling it as a concrete method. And this method doesn't have any implementation. I am calling it as an abstract method. So what you're gonna do is now the class itself is an abstract class. So abstract class in the sense in Java is a class that cannot be instantiated. ඔයාට ඒ class එකේ object එකක් create කරන්න බෑ. Right? You cannot never create an object from that particular class. Is meant to be subclass by other classes, but you can have the inheritor. That means that you can create many subclasses as per your need. Can have abstract methods without the body or the implementation, as well as concrete method with the body. You can right? Abstract classes are used to provide common base for other classes to inherit from, often defining a common behaviors while leaving some method to be implemented by subclass. So they are there to provide a common base, right? හරියටම template එකක් create කරන්න මොනවා හරි logic එකක් invoke කරන්න ඕන නම් it actually provide a common base for other classes to inherit from. So I will explain that. So now you are in the dog class, right? Subclass extends to that particular abstract class called animal, right? Class dog class sorry, animal class extend it is giving me a like with the red bar, and when I go there, it is asking me to implement the method. Inside this particular animal abstract class, you do have some abstract methods, right? Method body the method signature and that thing is there, right? It will ask to implement the methods inside this particular class. So if I hit that, you can see with the override signature, I have that methods are automatically coming. Now the error is resolved, right? So here I can provide my own implementation. Right? So the error is not resolving unless I have this constructor. So I'm saying name Right. Now the dog class subclass is done. What I'm going to do is in the main class, public static. Right. So that is when I have extend my subclass with the abstract superclass, it will ask to implement my method. So I can provide the abstract class එක ඇතුළේ method එක declare කරලා විතරයි. So inside the subclass you need to provide the its implementation, right? So void is එතන implementation එක විදියට සක්කරිනවා print කරා, right? So what happen is inside the main Java file where I have my main method, I can create the objects, right? And I can invoke the methods, right? So here with this abstract animal class with the inheritance, so I can have like many abstract methods as per my need. Method ගොඩාක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? But the thing is, like when you have that kind of like abstract methods inside the abstract class, so it acts as some kind of a like a template. එතකොට when software developers come, like they can easily like write like when they are making a new class, they can extend it to the super class. From this abstract class, they can like override the whatever the abstract methods and they can provide its own implementation. So what happened is with this particular abstract class concept, it is easy for us to reuse the code without having this abstract method. Like which act as a template, you need to write the code. Like when you have the abstract methods like this, you just only need to provide the implementation, right? So it will save your time. So that's the importance of this abstract classes in the object-oriented programming, right? So, but the thing is, remember the different abstract classes can have concrete methods too. They can have method implementation too. Abstract from the abstract you can create objects. They can create කරන්න බෑ objects create කරන්න බෑ. It will give you an error, right? I'm going to showcase. Bash rep පොඩක් attendance කියන මට ගාන. Right? If I am to create an object from my abstract class animal, it says animal is abstract, cannot be instantiated. That means I cannot create the objects. You can't, like create subject from the this particular abstract classes never. You can't done that, right? That's the point. Right. So the last thing for today, it's interfaces. So what does it mean by interface? What is the here? It's just from outer, okay, so something that you can deal with from maybe like outer environment. Uh, right? So yeah, provide a common base, right? So interfaces Java is a referent type similar to a class that can contain only the abstract methods, methods without a body and constants, right? It is used to represent a contract that classes must adhere to. Parts that implement an interface is required to provide a concrete implementation for all the abstract methods defined in the interface. So there are something known as like abstract classes, and when you go more higher, we have these interfaces. Interfaces, we can only have abstract methods and the kind of like constant. We call it static final variables. So you need to remember that thing. But uh, interfaces, they can only have this abstract methods only. We cannot have concrete methods, right? A class that implements an interface is required to provide concrete implementation for all the abstract methods defined in the interface. Sarala, with the same example, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the animal.java animal class file and I'm gonna say interface. I'm defining it as an interface. I mean, like, yeah. So I cannot have constant. I mean, instant variable. I'm gonna delete this thing, and it is giving me a error. Right. I delete this particular thing. Even you can see there's a concrete method, right? May method interface abstract method cannot have a body, right? So you cannot definitely have a like concrete method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as an abstract method. Abstract method instead of public, you need to start with still giving me an error. මං කරන්න ඕන main Java file එකට ගිහිල්ලා මේ ඔක්කොම comment කරන්න ඕන. Right? Right? I will delete all these things inside my subclass. Right. Right. That is my interface. Interface can only have abstract methods. Right? Abstract going be any method. Right? Can the interface can have complete method? Can the interface can have complete method? Yeah. This can get the law. Right. So okay. What do we have? We have to have lecture with Oh, should that? Right. Okay. Yes or no? Right. Right. Interface, they cannot have concrete methods. Concrete methods, only the abstract methods should be there, right? Abstract word eat, abstract word make noise, and that's the thing, right? Common base that is the more higher level of abstraction, right? So I have here declared a set of professional, dog class, my subclass, right? So what I'm gonna say, without having the extending keyword, public class dog implements animal. It is giving me error. So what happened is, instead of doing the writing the implement, I mean like the extending keyword, I'm writing the implements keyword, and I'm gonna just like inheriting all the things in my superclass, and superclass is actually interface, right? So It is giving me error. No? So let's see what is it is suggesting. Implement methods, right? You can see all the three abstract methods. Right. Void it, that means like whatever the method abstract method that you have in there inside the your interface, you have to provide the concrete implementation in the whatever the superclass, subclass that you are implement to the superclass. So you can provide the implementation as per your need and inside the main method, basically, you can do the necessary thing. So the thing is, the idea is this interface is a more advanced version of this abstract classes, and basically it provides the interface, right? So by doing so, it will save the time of developers. Yeah, software developers, that's the idea, right? And it will improve the code readability also. So yes, up to this point, you guys have any questions? Any questions? Right. So with this, I will wind up the session, and maybe like whenever I have free time, I will upload all this according to the LMS. Maybe like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So that will maybe like that will help you at least. I mean, like, try to attend to the practical sessions. I mean, that's whenever I go for practical. Yeah. Any questions apart from that? Right. So you guys email you now and have a nice day. And the people who are belong to the group that are in the government, please are like this in India. Now to cut off the land. And make sure for the military, I mean, like you have 1 month of time starting for this. So it's starting from, I think it's deadline. So the whole so I mean, like you have that we can get started, right? I will explain that in the next, but remember that 4th April, right? So yeah, you guys can leave.